It Ends With Us is out in theaters, directed by Justin Baldoni, who also co-stars in the film alongside Blake Lively. Based on an incredibly popular novel by Colleen Hoover, which I have not read, the film has already had some minor drama surrounding its release, as it was reported that there was a fight over the theatrical cut. The first cut, signed off by the director Justin Baldoni, tested apparently quite well with the test audiences, but according to the rumors, Blake Lively was unhappy with it, so she, with the help of her husband Ryan Reynolds, she recut the film, convinced the novel writer to support that new cut, and used her pull as one of the producers on the film to have this cut be the theatrical one. According to some leaks, the differences were largely in tone. Baldoni's cut would have been more serious and dramatic, whereas Lively focused on the romance parts instead. And the film was even marketed basically like a rom-com would. Now, I have no horse in this race, but having seen what we got, I would be interested to know what Baldoni's cut looked like, because who knows, it may have genuinely been pretty good. Anyway, the story of the film follows Lily Bloom, ridiculous name by the way, a woman in her 30s who has just buried her father and has moved to Boston in order to open a flower shop. She does so, and she also meets a seemingly the man of her dreams, Ryle, this hot, rich, smart neurosurgeon who is not interested in a serious relationship, only sex. She refuses. The back and forth goes on for weeks, and inevitably the romance blossoms into something more serious. He agrees to get involved, but as things progress from there, he turns out to also have a darker side, and she also coincidentally meets the guy who was her first love back in high school. So listen, based on this premise and on the trailers, I expected an absolute trash film and only went to see it to keep my girlfriend company. But I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by how alright the movie managed to be. I'm not saying good, I'm saying okay. Now, I'll start by underscoring once again that I didn't read the book, so I had no comparison to make. And as such, I think this film manages to achieve quite well what it sets out to do, which I think is to pretend to be a silly rom-com in order to smuggle a more serious message about domestic abuse and cyclical repeating nature, the patterns that are passed down from generation to generation, and how difficult it is to recognize those patterns in the first place, and then as the next step trying to break free from them. Now listen, is it subtle? Is it a subtle, intelligent film? No, it's about as subtle as a sledgehammer. Everything is spelled out for the audience. There is no ambiguity when all is said and done. It's simplistic, surface level, and easy. But I would argue that in a movie which is designed to reach as wide an audience as possible, this is a plus. Because it's not a film for cinema lovers who love to break down every scene and analyze the subtext and work out the deeper meanings and themes. It's a film for the average Joe and average Jane who will go see the movie, hoping for a good time at a rom-com, and they may end up leaving with something to think about or an actually good lesson learned from it. So while it isn't a good movie, I think it achieves what it sets out for. Now, I have to talk about some additional things on top of that. One, my girlfriend read the book beforehand, and she explained to me later that some really important stuff was left out or changed, such as the fact that, for example, in the book, Lily is struggling financially and is desperate, which adds an additional layer of dependency and economic safety provided by Ryle. There's also other stuff which she complained about, and I understand and agree with it, but again, I saw the movie with a fresh eye without the context of the book, and as such, it kind of worked for me. 2. Justin Baldoni is very good as Ryle, very believable across the entire emotional spectrum. 3. Blake Lively is not good as Lily. I thought she was very flat and one note. She doesn't emote very well and is generally rather boring. And again, according to my girlfriend, she also doesn't tap into the character as written in the book at all. 4. Apparently, Lively talked in interviews about how she herself designed the wardrobe for the character, or rather used her own clothes and outfits. Girl, what the shit? I mean, I'm the last person to talk about fashion, admittedly, but I can say whether the clothes that I see on people give me aesthetic pleasure to look at them or not. And the clothes that she wears in this film are some of the worst, ugliest, most off-putting and just weird costumes I've ever seen. To the point it was distracting from some of the scenes. It's not that I was looking at her and just not thinking she's sexy. I was looking at her and actively thinking, what is going on here? It was distracting. I don't know. I think that aspect just doesn't work at all. And 5, I do think there are pacing problems. The movie feels a little bit too long, and there are dialogue problems, especially the flirting and romancing scenes basically have the level of dialogue that you'd expect from a bad rom-com, which is silly and cheesy and cringe. And 6, this is not to say I'm justifying any character for their actions, but it does seem to me that also, like in so many rom-coms, these adults do not know how to talk to each other and share basic information going both ways. There were multiple times where I thought conflict could have been entirely avoided if there was some basic honesty and a willingness to sit down and explain things. That's about as much as I want to say about the film. It has its faults, and plenty of them, but I can't lie to myself or you. I didn't dislike it. I thought it had a good message. It deals with some heavy themes in a serviceable way, and again, this is the most important part for me. It tailors the way it delivers those messages to the target audience that it chooses, which I think makes it an overall successful endeavor.